Right. So that was, you're probably wondering, who's that strapping young lad singing that very interesting song that's very blatantly about cruising in New York City streets? And the answer is Dennis Parker, who went by the porn name of Wade Nicholas. He was actually a porno actor of not just gay films, but he was also in, you might have heard of it, if you haven't, ask your parents about Maraschino Cherry. It came out in 1977. It was part of the same porno chic era, but one of the straight films. And this was his song that was supposed to propel him into stardom, like an eagle. And who was involved but the very same Jacques Morali, who wrote Where Is My Man for Eartha Kitt, and who also was behind the Village People. He really had quite a corner on the gay music market of the 70s. I made this slide several years ago, so I don't quite remember why I put Monique 1979 in, but I'm sure Google search would yield something interesting in that regard. But moving on from Dennis Parker, I wanted to talk a little bit about something that we haven't really talked directly about in the entire course, which is pornography today. There's actually been some interesting research and some studies into it. I wanted to share a couple. So this is University of Montreal, so it might be biased. We know Canadians are a bit strange. But this is a study which says single guys average 2 hours a week of pornography consumption. And those who are in couples, it gets down to 34. Which basically means if you're single, you're watching a feature film of pornography a week. And if you're in a couple, you're still watching at least a TV episode of pornography. Which I think is very interesting because pornography is perhaps one of the most universally consumed mediums of entertainment. And yet it's also one of the only mediums of entertainment which not only doesn't warrant the title of art generally, but is considered pretty much antithetical to art. So I found this interesting and I started doing a bit more research. And I looked up the Google definition. Is it still recording? I'm very suspicious of it. But I looked up the Google definition of art. And art is the, some stuff is still in Irish when I started abroad. I haven't changed that back, but the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, typically in a visual form, such as painting or sculpture, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty and emotional power. And I find this interesting because, horniness is an emotion, and it is something through which you appreciate, sexual arousal is an emotion through which you appreciate pornography. But when you look up the definition for pornography, not only does the word art not appear, but now it's printed or visual material containing the explicit description or display of sexual organs or activity, intended to stimulate erotic rather than aesthetic or emotional feelings. So, erotic here is contrary to is outside the definition of emotional and even aesthetic. But what's really interesting is that there's actually a third word that people don't talk about a great deal, erotica. And in this one, we have kind of the best of both worlds, it seems, which is literature or art intended to arouse sexual desire. So I got kind of interested, what is the difference between erotica and pornography? So I started doing a bit more research, and I did a Google image search for erotica. And, the stuff that pops up, I think, is very interesting. A lot of it not from this century. You have a lot of very deliberate poses here. And it does appear to be some, even in the explicitly, ones that here would seem to meet the definition of pornography. There seems to be more attention paid to, conventional artistic metrics. There's attention paid to composition and whatnot. And for comparison's sake, I did a Google image search of porn. And here, I don't know, does anyone have any thoughts, any differences? Are we cracking the case?
The first one?
What's the difference between erotica and porn? I'm really trying to figure it out.
The porn seems to be, a little more straight up, just giving it as is. I mean, it's people fucking, but erotica, it's, I think, a little more suggestive. Sometimes it's trying to leave a little more to the imagination. Maybe it's someone like in a sexual pose, but not actively engaging in sex, whereas this seems to be just the act of sex itself.
It is true, and it does seem like, erotica seems to border on sex, but not fully enter sex. But then I started to do a little more research, I'm a history student after all, I need to be doing this kind of thing. So I went on the Wikipedia page for erotica, and here we actually have full penetrative sex for a 1748 illustration. And here's the interesting thing. The first 3 words of the article, erotica is art. It mentions some critics regard pornography as a type of erotica, but many consider it to be different. Erotic art may use any artistic form to depict erotic content, including painting, sculpture, drama, film, or music. So pay attention, this is the image that they show you for erotica. And if you go to the Wikipedia page for pornography, this is the image they show you, which is just 3 X's on a tilted ellipse. So again, we have not the word art, but the word material being used to describe pornography. And it seems like there's this border between erotica and pornography, which aligns quite well with the border between art and pornography. But it's important to note that sometimes a piece of pornography can cross over into the world of art and erotica. And here's a perfect example for this. This is a great painting, L'Origine du Monde by Gustave Courbet. And originally it was made for a private collection, of which the collector would have probably considered this to be something rather shameful, something he wouldn't put in public, would consider it pornography, something very personal. But today it's actually displayed in the Musée d'Orsay, as well as I have a print in my room, fun fact. And it's probably one of the most famous vaginas in the world. And in fact, here is somebody taking a close-up picture of it at the Musée d'Orsay. So I think what we're reaching here is something an image I've shown you already, but I do think it's quite useful as a visual representation of the kind of dialectic here. We see yin and yang making a return from the first lecture, differentiating porn from art with a very fine and clear line. On the one hand, you have the white, the good, and the pure. This is art which stimulates our senses of morality, perhaps excites our dramatic senses. It can even make us laugh. It can excite our sense of humor. All of that finds itself within the white and the pure. That's art. And it's delineated by this very fine border from the kind of gross black pool besides it, which is pornography. And that this black pool of pornography appeals to our basest, our most reptilian desire. But erotica brings us more complexity because it arises from a problem, which is that there's these people in the upper crust of society who are well educated, who are refined, and who want to enjoy the beauty of sexuality just as much as their fellow man. But they don't want to step into the blackness, which is why they've created right here their little pure enclave of pornography, which is called erotica. Or at least that's the theory I've come to after my cursory research on the subject. And I'm not sure if you would agree or disagree with this model, but I'm curious, where do you think Bible would fit in the world of art, pornography, and erotica? What is this movie? You have to, only people sitting up are allowed to ask questions.
Oh, come on, man. I'm feeling sick.
Yeah.
Okay. I think, I mean, to be fair, like, I agree with your sort of description of, like, erotica versus porn. And at the same time, I think they're, like you said, they're basically just the same thing. And it's just, I think that's a good theory that it's sort of sectioned based on, like, that sort of, like, oh, this is, like, more high class or whatever. But I think that makes this both, because there's erotic moments in this, and there's also pornographic moments in this. And it's also art, and there's like a small person that gets strangled. So there's a lot of stuff that happens in this movie.
Yeah, kind of. It plays with the line, much like a tightrope walker.
Yeah. I feel like there should be like a new word for it, because it does feel like it's pornographic, but at the same time, it's too artistic for me to just think of it as like pornography, because I feel like that's like a lowly term.
And it's kind of pornographic in the sense that the entire thing is like, about sex. All 3 chapters independently are tied very heavily to sex. But there's a lot of, you can say the same about Wakefield Poole's Bijou, or as we saw, Boys in the Sand. But there's also a lot of differences. And a couple of them are pretty obvious, so these are free balls for anybody who wants their participation points. What are some differences between this and Wakefield Poole's other movie we watched, Boys in the Sand?
It's straight.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's straight. And there's not, of the 3 segments, all 3 depict heteroerotic sex. And there's also another pretty big critical difference here.
Well, there were things verging on it. There was never actually any intercourse depicted.
Yeah, exactly. There's no, this, as a matter of fact, it has so little direct and very explicit intercourse that when it was first made, Wakefield Poole tried to get approval from the MPAA to have this screened in theaters as an R-rated movie, as I'm sure would be more surprising if you haven't done the reading than this you have. It also has a lot of similarities to Boys in the Sand. Does anybody want to point out any of the similarities, perhaps? Haley, did you have any opinions?
I wasn't here for the Boys in the Sand.
All right. Were you here?
There's no dialogue.
There is
Not in all
one line.
sections.
There's one
Oh,
line.
there's a line in Bible?
I'm hungry.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit, you're right.
But other than that,
I forgot about I'm hungry.
that's true.
I'm
a lot,
hungry.
but I agree, though. A lot of visual storytelling, mostly visual, and a small minority of it being spoken. Anybody else notice any other similarities? Some obvious, some less so. Just for
We got one.
all right.
They're both kind of funny. They try to be funny.
That's true. They both. And again, if we go back to the definition of pornography, a key part of pornography is the exclusivity of its purpose. Pornography is meant to just stimulate sexual desire, and there's pretty much like nothing made nowadays which is mainstream and which both tries to go beyond just titillating to actively arousing the audience, while also trying to make them laugh and try and get them invested in storytelling. Another thing I wanted to point out is it's also very slow. And his movies are going to be, I believe, the slowest in the entire course, unless we end up watching Kansas City Trucking Company. It lingers a lot on these individual settings, on these individual scenes, on these interactions. if you could spin this into a positive, you could say it's an indication that Wakefield Poole takes more pleasure in the beauty of life than the most of us, I guess. But yes, it could have probably been trimmed 20 minutes. And there's also this emphasis on the beauty and the purity of sex, which characterizes Boys in the Sand and Bijou. And it's even shot, much like Boys in the Sand was, on an island, in this case, an island of fantasy as well. In a unique way, it's also quite similar, I thought, to Myra Breckenridge. You might be wondering how that is. It's because this film, for the second time in our course, starts with a mushroom cloud, nuclear explosion. And you probably weren't expecting 2 nuclear bombs in your gay porn class, but here you are. This is the course's second mushroom cloud for the origins of life and the creation of Adam. And this is his depiction of it. And from this explosive embryo of existence, he emerges into the caves. He's swimming, he's climbing for light, and he ends up on the beaches. And then there's a very sensual scene between him and Eve, which I did actually illustrate on my notepad during class. I thought really covered a lot of their interaction, and it goes on for quite a while. And it is melodramatic. I think it's probably funny and sexy in equal measures. And it ends with what is either a very pleasant or very painful ejaculation. I'm not sure, maybe there's some kidney stones going on there. But after all, it ends with a relatable experience, which is you've just finished having sex, now you're hungry. And this is the first way in which it separates itself from conventional tellings of the Bible. Because conventionally, Eve, who was created, after all, from Adam, from the rib of Adam, is a morally inferior model of human being, and is the first to succumb to the temptation of the apple, and then brings Adam into this original sin. But in this one, her desire for an apple is not portrayed as some deliberate, greedy, gluttonous disobedience of God, but as, some post-coital hunger. And this is the first way in which Wakefield Poole, in this movie, tries to bring us closer to these so often villainized female characters of the Bible. And there's pretty much direct continuity between her having the apple to the next shot, a woman having an apple, a man biting an apple, and a big bouquet. And without a single word being spoken, we have this shift of tone. First of all, we know this is now comedic. The shot of the apple punctuates the punchline. So there's a total shift in tone. And the tone shift extends beyond just becoming humorous, because now we're gone from the innocent, idyllic lives of God's first children, of Adam and Eve, to this post-original sin world. And now there's greed, and there's wealth, and there's a man and a woman who clearly have long ago stopped loving each other, who are sat across this huge bouquet of fruits. And it works quite well as a tonal shift. You might be interested to know that the entire next segment and the interaction between David and the woman is David sent messengers to fetch her. She came to him and he lay with her. She had just purified herself after her period, and she went back home. The woman conceived, and she sent word to David, "I am pregnant." Those are her 3 words in this entire interaction, which, to be fair, as a visual storyteller, Wakefield Poole doesn't give her any more words, but he certainly gives her a lot more personality. In the Bible, we don't get any indication of her character, We don't understand what her previous relationship was like with her husband. We don't understand her motivations. And like so many stories in the Bible, the woman's perspective is completely absent. But in this telling, we actually see some marital indiscrepancies, particularly the the gong of coveting thy neighbor's wife. This adulterous gong is something that her husband, who is dressed in very period accurate nipple exposing gladiatorial armor there.
Super effective against sword.
Yeah, super effective against swords. It was actually inspired fear in their enemies when the Romans would expose themselves to purple nurples.
I also love the like Roman armor and then just like the modern like steel mass-produced chair.
He's also wearing like athletic shorts, I think.
The connection between the Roman and the modern is amusing because as everybody noticed, and I could tell everybody noticed because everybody laughed, when the his, I don't even know how to describe her, full-time stripper, it has her Alexa wake word activated and comes out and starts performing her little routine. It's set to music which borrows from a variety of songs, including the American national anthem, which humorously connects Roman jingoism to our own, perhaps. Maybe it's a statement about empire. Maybe it's just a little flair from DJ Poole. But
It's gotta be deep. It's gotta be about the American Empire.
yeah, it's got it.
Sure.
When
No deep
yeah.
unintentional.
For cinema analysis, we use the opposite of Occam's razor. But
Occam's broom.
yeah, David's voyeurism is established not by you seeing him, but by you seeing her through these obstructions. And it's interesting because just by this shot alone, you know somebody's watching because it's such a weird shot and it's such an obstructed shot that it has to be. And it starts this interaction which goes back and forth between her appreciating David's attention and her not wanting to actually consummate this extramarital affair. And there's this kind of playful Scooby-Doo nude back and forth between them, which verges a bit on rapey. And then it ends immediately. The act starts and is over as quick as it begins. The punchline to finish the second segment. But now these are two segments where historically we're told the woman has transgressed, and we see, at least partly for both of these stories, the part that the Bible leaves out, which is that a man is somewhat responsible. And from there, we get into a third segment which completes this theme, which is Samson and Delilah. And we see something remarkable, something which is absolutely not in the Bible. That is Samson killing a blue dwarf, or I guess a little person.
Thing one.
I would use dwarf personally. I think it's cooler.
That's definitely thing one.
Does he just have one brother, or is there another?
I think it was like the two actors were actually brother and sister
Wow.
because they have the same last name.
And it was just that she has these two small servants working for her. But their size is their smaller size compared to Samson's towering, literally biblical strength. Shows you that this is not an honorable man as he's portrayed in the Bible. Here is somebody who is preying on the weak and using his strength to turn himself into a bully. If you search why does Delilah cut Samson's hair, this is what Google tells you. She was a Philistine who bribed to entrap Samson, coaxed him into revealing that the secret of his strength was his long hair. whereupon she took advantage of his confidence to betray him to his enemies. Her name has since become synonymous with a voluptuous, treacherous woman. And, a core part of her portrayal of wickedness is not just her. This is Encyclopedia Britannica, actually. So, it's top source right here.
Oh, yeah.
Even higher than AI Overview. But a core part of her portrayal of wickedness is not just that she undermines a man, but that she uses other men to help her, that she has men in a subordinate position to herself, which borrows from, as far back as ancient Greek mythology. You have Clytemnestra and Aegisthus. You have this long tradition of wicked, voluptuous, treacherous women using the men around them to advance their own political or personal or power desires. And in doing so, Delilah threatens not just Samson or whichever specific man lived back then. She threatens the entire institution of masculinity. And so Wakefield Poole asks, probably the most provocative of the three stories is asking, what if Samson started it? What if he, the strong man, was preying on the weak and got his comeuppance when one of his victims turned out to be connected to this powerful, she-king? And the fact that she uses servants is portrayed as a very cool, a very empowering thing. And her servants are all dressed in these very sleek, interesting, very white outfits with somewhat phallic headdress. And after Samson's hair is cut, she carries up her dwarven servant, holds him up like this in this new position of superiority. And what's biblically portrayed as a betrayal is portrayed here as a victory. And then we end mercifully with a quite short segment, which is the angel Gabriel and the Virgin Mary. Do any of you know what this event is called in the Bible?
Conception.
Heathen detected. The Immaculate Conception is the birth of Mary, free from sin. This is actually not the Immaculate Conception. So, gotcha. Anyway, you might be thinking, sorry?
What's it called?
I forgot.
I forgot.
I'm lapsed, but not too lapsed that I still have some moral
What
superiority.
if you're a Catholic?
I am a bad
I
Catholic.
want to excommunicate your ass.
But the people who made this movie, may seem to be bad Catholics. It may come across as a political movie, but for those of you who read the reading, it doesn't really come across that like political. It comes across, if anything, as an appreciation of the Bible and a new light to tell these stories in, and a continuation of his themes of fantasy. Why not make a film about probably the most important fantasy in civilization today, one that colors so many people's perception of the world. It was far from the only gay religious movie to come out. There was Derek Jarman's Sebastian, which told the story of Saint Sebastian and his martyrdom, where Sebastian is, has historically been used by gay artists in this film, explicitly portrayed as gay. And there was also a movie starring actually Bo White called A Very Natural Thing, which had come out before this movie. It got glowing reviews from critics like Vito Russo, and it was a depiction of somebody leaving a convent, a religious institution, and finding gay love. And you also might have heard of him. Are you curious about his sexual life? With a picture of Jesus. This movie came out around the same time, and it played on 55th Street Playhouse. Anybody remember 55th Street Playhouse? Extra credit? No? That's where Boys in the Sand premiered.
Whoa.
55th Street Playhouse. So, you know, this was a lot of the biblical pornography industry was growing by the day. This movie has an actually very interesting story because it was to this day it remains lost. And Wakefield Poole actually ended up getting very briefly involved with the hunt to re-find it. I might send you guys a video about that with the homework.
Is Ed Louis dead?
I think he's dead. I do think the vast majority of the people involved in the production of him are dead. So, you know, maybe God is real.
Maybe it's in the basement of 55th Street Playhouse.
Next week,
Whoa.
we'll be watching one of these three movies. My pick would be Pink Flamingos. I think Pink Flamingos certainly has the best trailer of the three. But, you know, if anybody has any objections, you can voice them now. We might watch, you want?
But next week, do you mean Friday?
Yes, this week.
I'm gonna try to get a bunch of people to pull up.
Yeah, I would love a big Pink Flamingos
Oh my god.
room. That'd be really good. The more reactions I could see, the better.
Like 30 people watching Pink Flamingos.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting too, because if you look at the last three movies we've watched, there was LA Plays Itself, which has two separate stories in two separate settings. The first one taking place in this idyllic world, and the second one taking place in this industrial world. And shots of, live bugs and life in the first segment are contrasted with dead bugs in freezers of endocrinologists and shots of, the advertisements around them. And meanwhile, in Bible, which is split into three segments, there's much more thematic consistency across the three of them, even as the tone shifts. And though each of these movies are self-contained plots, they form, probably more similar to Bible, a thematic trilogy, which was it his Trash trilogy or his Filth trilogy? I can't remember.
Filth trilogy.
I think Filth trilogy, I'm compelled to say.
What about Multiple Maniacs, though? Wasn't that also a divine movie?
It was a divine movie. I think it came out, it was the prelude, maybe the trailer for the trilogy,
I see.
because he doesn't include it. But yes, this is going to be, pay attention, this is going to be the best trailer we'll watch in the course.
Did you happen to hear about it?
From some friends who saw it and thought it was absolutely marvelous.
Oh yeah, I'll be very insulted.
Rex Reed told us that it's fabulous.
You come out at midnight to see it.
Why go home at midnight? What are you going to see there?
I guess there's some somehow the people with that
Great movie, by the way.
Fantastic. First time I've been to it. It's an incredible head thing for people. Oh, it's marvelous. Absolutely.
Best thing I've ever seen in my whole life.
Absolutely. It was divine. Fabulous. Better than cries and whispers. I think it's the future of city living. How
I think he just found the gayest man.
Yes. Really good. Right? It's great. He's a garbage.
The only one I didn't like, the Red Station, I have an aversion to the name.
It was divine. It's not religious movie.
Oh, gross, but I liked it.
Well, it was really the grossest film I've seen. I think John Waters has got his finger on the pulse of America. I think he's got his thumb securely up America's ass.
I enjoy dirty things as much as everyone else does, but this isn't even dirty, it's just disgusting.
It's great because it's not just a trailer but a primary source on these 70s queens.
So back to that guy who said city living. I need to see his face again. Because that man
I can't go back.
Truly
on
and
this,
completely love this film.
Can't go back on the.
Use the mouse.
No, it doesn't work.
Really?
Yeah, it's within the PowerPoint.
That's tragic. Fuck the PowerPoint.
But well, I did get it for free, so. Yeah. But
like,
in any event, yes, this Friday screening, there will be a reading as well, and I want the theater to sound like that. So tell all your friends that Pink Flamingos is happening. All right, and have a wonderful week.
Thank you.
Thank you.